On my naming day, my grandmother, she named me Comet. She said it wasn't the kind of comet that falls from the sky. But on my 40 weeks before my 44th birthday, as I was told in prophecies, I would die before I was 45, then I would make a comeback. These prophecies at the time made no sense to me. So, a month before my 44th birthday, my airplane, whose engine had quit before on takeoff at Pearson Airfield, and at 900 foot quit, where I did a mayday, and at 900 foot I had enough altitude to safely make it back to the runway. However, on this day, after the mechanic, a good friend of mine, said that it was fixed, said he would take it up and show it to me that it was fixed, I didn't think it was fixed because prophecy said I was going to die. I felt like I was going to die. My feet felt like lead. I'm not going to get completely into the story of what happened here, but enough to say that right about when my aircraft reached 300 foot, the engine quit, well below minimum safe altitude. So it was after 3 and the freeways were packed with people. There was nowhere to go where I wouldn't kill somebody else. So I went for the dead man's turn, knowing I'd at least crash somewhere where I most likely wouldn't kill any other people. And ironically, having been named Comet, I fell from the sky and I crashed at the walls, the picket fort walls of my enemy. I crashed right at the walls of a Hudson Bay British fort, rebuilt on an old site. Pearson Field, you can see it on the internet if you look it up. I fell and I landed at the walls of my enemy's fort and I died. And my partner, my mechanic, also died. I got better. He did not. So I was in the land of the dead for 3.5 weeks. Most of that in a coma. All of that in a coma. Dead, then in a coma. It was 3.5 weeks before they brought me out of it. I'll get into that story later. So I had made an agreement with my grandmother when I was very young, long before my naming day. And she said, you have to choose where you want to go when you die. Do you want to go to heaven with all those Christians? Do you want to go to the happy underground? Where do you want to go? No question, right away. Never questioned it. I said, I'm going where all my ancestors went. I'm going to the happy hunting ground. That's where I'm going. So now I'm going to tell you what happened. I'm not going to tell these stories in chronological order. I was in the land of the dead, and it is a timeless place. So I find myself standing in this grass, green lit space, but staring out like off a cliff into the vastness of space. My grandmother standing next to me, and an uncle that I've known since I was a child, who was a spirit. He's a real person, pre-contact ancestor that made contact with me and guided me while I was young and to this day. An uncle in Sazik. So I'm standing there with my uncle and my grandma and another person of an Algonquin nature also showed up in this grassy spot, and my grandmother points, and my uncle and we all turn and look. and it's kind of rolling green grass. And then what do I see off in the distance? This is what I want to tell you, because this was a powerful message for me. I'm standing with my grandmother. I know I'm dead. I'm standing with my uncle and this other person who has also passed away. And they gesture, and I look, and I see the rolling green off into the distance, and I see the gates to the village. Not even gates, but the entrance area to the villages. And 2 rows of people. 2 rows of people, one on the left, one on the right, with the center open and the path that goes to the village. And that's the happy hunting ground. I see them. And I could see that they went so far back into the distance, and they went down behind the hill, and you could see the 2 lines of people come up the other side of the hill and disappear over the crest of that hill. They rolled across the land. And in the front of those 2 rows of people were family members of mine that were calling me to come into the happy hunting ground. But right behind them were people that were sneering, that had clubs and stones and were sneering and everything. And I went, great goose clap. This is a goose going by. I see this. That is a gauntlet. That is a gauntlet. There's a gauntlet, and they're screaming for me to come down there. And there was men, women, and children. They had sticks, clubs, stones. They were pulling at their hair and raging. My family was welcoming, but the ones behind them that I didn't know from further back, and then so they were not happy. And I suddenly realized, to get into the happy hunting ground, you have to run the gauntlet. When you die and you move to the spirit world permanently, if you're going with our ancestors and native ones, from, I don't know, my tradition, our people, I know I'm Wabanaki, so there was a gauntlet. And my grandmother and my uncle began speaking to me, and they told me that this gauntlet's there. They want you, and you have to be brave to run this gauntlet. But you got to understand, every single thing that you did that was against our ways, that was bad for the earth, bad for the children, bad for the future, that was bad for our people, everything you did that was against our ways, there are people there that are going to want to hit you and smash you. You're going to have to go through that gauntlet, and then you'll be welcomed in the village clean and free. Nothing held against you. And I was just amazed. And then they even said, for every English word you use, because they told me I needed to start learning language, they said, for everything you've done, you're going to get hit. You're going to get kicked. Someone's going to come at you in that gauntlet. You'll never get into the happy hunting ground. You'll be stuck outside unless you go through that gauntlet. And there was some other things, but then I began to get lessons about the gauntlet and how important it was, what it meant to us, and why it worked so well. I'm not going to get that deeply into it here, because I've already rambled a bit. After I was done communicating with my grandmother and my uncle and the other, we moved on to other things and changed our orientation as soon as in the groups. I saw a lot of things while I was there and continue to get learning and lessons from the things I saw. I was 3.5 weeks dead, so awful lot happened. Yeah. We'll talk about the crash for real some other time. We'll talk about the importance and what it means to run a gauntlet and to how that works and why that is a really good justice. So yeah, it looks like When we pass away, I'm going to have to run the gauntlet to get into the happy hunting ground. And we better start mending our ways and walking like our ancestors and behaving like they showed us and like we know better. We know right from wrong. That's what that's what I was told. And we know what we used to do. Pre-contact, how we behaved, how we thought, how we took care of the earth, how we took care of the family. The land belongs to the children not yet born. All of that. We know better. And we're going to pay for that. A reckoning's coming. Everyone has a reckoning. And ours comes in the form of the gauntlet. What was saw Megwaj's kiln. Long Mekun gone. Kizi Uli the Hunzi, have a good mind. Pomosa McWegan, Wongdis, walk the red road. Love y'all.